Hey friends, today I will be talking about condition for minimum work done on a two-stage compressor with perfect intercooling. We know the expression for work done in a two-stage compressor with perfect intercooling is that W is equal to N by N minus 1 into P1 V1 P2 by P1 to the power N minus 1 by N plus this P3 by P2 to the power N minus 1 by N minus 2. This I have derived it in my previous video. You can check that out. I will leave the link in the description below. To find out the minimum work done, first we should find out the expression for the intermediate pressure P2. We know that in this, if you look at the schematic diagram here, this is the low pressure cylinder. This is the suction pressure. This is going to be constant because it's going to be the atmospheric pressure. And P3 is the delivery pressure, the pressure that we want, even that is going to remain constant. The only pressure that we can play around with is the intermediate pressure. So we find an expression for the intermediate pressure in terms of the delivery pressure and the suction pressure. That we substitute it in this equation to get the minimum work. To find out the expression for the intermediate pressure, we differentiate the work done with respect to the intermediate pressure P2 and we equate it to 0. So we differentiate dW by dP2 and equate it to 0 and assume that N by N minus 1 is equal to A, just for simplifying the calculation. So when we substitute N by N minus 1 as A, we get A into P1 V1, so P2 to the power A. And when we bring P1 to the numerator, the sign of the power changes. So P2 to the power A into P1 to the power minus A plus P3 to the power A into P2 to the power minus A minus 2. Now we differentiate this with respect to P2 and we equate this to 0. So this A into P1 V1 gets divided by 0 and it gets cancelled. Now we differentiate this with respect to P2, this expression. So what do we get? We know that this is a constant, P1 to the power minus A is a constant and P3 to the power A is a constant because this is the delivery pressure which remains a constant and this is the suction pressure which remains a constant. So now we differentiate only P2 to the power A. So what do we get? Differentiating with respect to P2, we get A into P2 to the power of A minus 1 into P1 to the power minus A, which is a constant, plus P3 to the power A is a constant, it remains as it is, into minus A to the power of P2 to the power minus A into P2 to the power minus A minus 1. That is the differentiation formula, that is x to the power n is equal to nx to the power n minus 1. This is the formula that we have used in here. So that's how it is, and 2 is a constant, so it's becomes 0 when we differentiate it. Now from this we remove A as a common factor. Here also A is a common factor and A is a common factor. So we remove A as a common factor. So P2 to the power A minus 1 into P1 to the power A minus A, and the negative sign comes here. So P3 to the minus of P3 to the power A into P2 to the power of minus A minus 1 equal to 0. This A gets divided here, so it becomes it gets cancelled. So the final expression we are left is P2 to the power A minus 1 into P1 to the power minus A is equal to P3 to the power A into P2 to the power minus A minus 1. This minus of P3 to the power A into P2 to the power minus A minus 1, you bring it to the other side. So you get like this, which this is equal to this. Now we need the expression in terms of P2. So what do we do is we bring P2 here, so cross multiply it. So we get P2 to the power of A minus 1 divided by P2 to the power of minus A minus 1, that we have written it here, and P3 to the power A divided by P1 to the power of minus A. Coming here, when the P2 is same, so this when it comes above here, the powers you have to subtract the powers. So this becomes A minus 1 minus of minus A minus 1 equal to P3 to the power A into P1 to the power of A. When P1 comes to the numerator, the power changes its sign. So we get that expression. So now when we simplify this, you get P2 to the power of 2A is equal to P3 into P1 to the power A. Because the power is same, we can put both P3 and P1 under the same one bracket. So now we are left with P2 to the power 2a is equal to P3 into P1 to the power a. Now we need to cancel these powers, so we take log on both sides. So when we take log, these powers get shifted here. So we get 2a into log of P2 is equal to a into log of P3 into P1. Now we can cancel a and a, so we are left with 2 into log of P2 is equal to log of P3 into P1. Now again take the anti-log, so again 2 goes back to as a power, so we get P2 square is equal to P3 into P1. Now P2 is nothing but when we take the square root to the square to the other side becomes the square root. So P2 is nothing but square root of P3 into P1. So now we have established the equation for P2 in terms of the delivery pressure and the suction pressure. That is P2 is nothing but the square root of P3 and P1. So now what we have to do is we need to substitute the expression for P2 in the equation of work done in a compressor with perfect intercooling. So now we have derived the expression for the intermediate pressure P2 in terms of the delivery pressure and the suction pressure. So P2 is nothing but the square root of P3 into P1, where P3 is the delivery pressure and P1 is the suction pressure. Now we have the expression for work done in a two-stage compressor with perfect cooling here. What we have to do is substitute the expression for P2 in this equation, or we can simplify P2 further and bring derive this expression in terms of the delivery pressure P3 and the suction pressure P1. So what we do here is we simplify this expression further. We have P2 is equal to square root of P3 into P1. Now square on both sides, so you have P2 square is equal to P3 into P1. Now cross multiply it, so one P2 goes here, so it becomes P3 by P2, and P1 goes here, so P2 by P1 is equal to P3 by P2. Now we have established the similarity between P2 by P1 and P3 by P2. So we know that P2 by P1 can be written as P3 by P2 here. So we have established that relationship. Now what we have to do is we need it in terms of P3 by P1. So we have P3 by P2 now, we need it in terms of P3 by P1. So take this expression again, P2 by P1 is equal to P3 by P2, multiply it by P2 by P1 on both sides. So you have P2 by P1 here and P2 by P1 here. Now P2 and P2 gets cancelled here, so you have P2 by P1 the whole square is equal to P3 by P1. So we have got that expression, we have got P3 and P1 here. So this is the delivery pressure and this is the suction pressure. So now P2 we have P3 and P1 here, so this is the P2 by P1 and this is P3 by P1. So this is the delivery pressure and we have the suction pressure here. But we know that P2 by P1 is nothing but P3 by P2. We have already established that relationship previously here. So you substitute P3 by P2 for P2 by P1 here. So P3 by P2 the whole square is equal to P3 by P1. So P3 by P2 is nothing but square root of P3 by P1. So that is the final relationship we have in terms of the delivery pressure and the suction pressure. This equation here, you substitute it in the work done. So now coming to this side, we have n by n minus 1 into P1 V1 into P2 by P1 gets changed to P3 by P2, which in turn gets again substituted by square root of P3 by P1. Square root of P3 by P1 is nothing but P3 by P1 to the power of 1 by 2. So the 1 by 2 gets multiplied by n minus 1 by n. So you have 1 by n minus 1 by n into 1 by 2 plus again P3 by P2 again. So that is nothing but square root of P3 by P1. So P3 by P1 into n minus 1 by n into 1 by 2. So that becomes n minus 1 by 2n minus 2. That 2 remains the same as it is. Now we have 2 times this here, so you get 2 into this expression. Now remove 2 as common factor, so 2 into n by n minus 1 into the initial condition P1 V1 into P3 by P1 to the power n minus 1 by 2n in minus 1. So this is the expression for work done on a multi-stage, in a two-stage compressor with perfect intercooling. So if we were to generalize this expression and if we were to apply it to n number of stages, or say 3-stage compressor or a 4-stage compressor, what we have to do is substitute the number of stages by S, that's it. So you have S into n by n minus 1 into P1 V1. So if we have a two-stage compression here, it is P3. So it is S plus 1. So you have P of S plus 1 divided by P1 into n minus 1 by, here you have two-stage compression, so you have 2n. So here it is Sn minus 1. So if we were to write this for write an expression for minimum work done for three-stage compressor, we would get 3 into n by n minus 1. So S replaces by 3 into P1 V1, which is the initial condition, into P of S plus 1. So you have P4 by P1 to the power of n minus 1 by 3n minus 1. So similarly you can write it for 4 stage and 5 stage, etc. So this is the expression for minimum work done on a two-stage compression with perfect intercooling, that we have generalized it to different stages of compression. Thank you.